The grand ballroom of the Hampton estate glittered like a dream. Crystal chandeliers swayed above as violins whispered elegance through the air. The city's richest elite gathered in their shimmering gowns and tailored tuxedos, laughing and swirling champagne, as if life itself bowed before them. But in the far corner, holding a silver tray with trembling hands, stood a young maid named Isabella, quiet, graceful, and almost invisible among the sea of power and pride. Her blue uniform was neatly pressed, though faintly worn at the edges, a symbol of endless work and quiet endurance. She had spent years cleaning the floors these same people danced upon, yet she carried herself with a strange poise that didn't belong in servitude. It was as if beneath the apron lived someone else, someone who didn't fit this world of luxury but who once belonged to something far greater. And that night everything changed, because that was the night when Alexander Hayes, one of the country's youngest millionaires, decided to humiliate her, not knowing he was about to destroy the walls between their worlds and uncover a truth that would leave everyone in tears. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, respect, and the beauty of second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us spread stories that touch hearts around the world. Alexander was known not just for his wealth, but for his arrogance. He had built an empire of hotels, yet treated his staff like disposable machines. Tonight, he celebrated another milestone, the acquisition of yet another luxury resort. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, and laughter filled the air. But, as the evening unfolded, boredom crept into his sharp blue eyes. That's when he noticed Isabella, the quiet maid who seemed lost in her own world, her eyes occasionally drifting toward the dance floor, where couples swayed to a passionate tango. Something about her expression, the quiet longing, mixed with pain, stirred a cruel idea in him. He turned to his guests with a smirk. "You see that maid?" he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's been staring at the dancers all evening. Maybe she wants to join them." Laughter erupted around him. Isabella froze, cheeks flushing, heart pounding as every eye turned toward her. Alexander wasn't done. He stepped forward, waving a crisp check in his hand, blank, ready to be written for any amount. "Tell you what," he said mockingly, "dance the tango with me, right here, right now, and I'll marry you. Imagine that. A maid turning into Mrs. Hayes." Gasps and chuckles rippled through the crowd. Some looked amused, others uncomfortable. Isabella's trembling hands gripped the tray tighter. For a second she wanted to run, to disappear behind the kitchen doors and never return. But something inside her shifted. Her mother's voice echoed in her heart. "Never let anyone decide your worth, my love. The world bows to courage." She lifted her gaze slowly, her brown eyes steady despite the storm inside. "If that's your wish, sir," she said softly, "I'll dance." The crowd went silent. Even Alexander blinked, surprised by her composure. He grinned, confident it would be a short-lived embarrassment. The orchestra hesitated, unsure, until he snapped his fingers and the music began, a slow, haunting tango. As Isabella stepped forward, the light from the chandelier caught her face. The timid maid was gone. Each movement of her foot was deliberate, graceful, and filled with purpose. The moment her hand met Alexander's, something shifted in the room. Her body moved with such elegance that the laughter faded, replaced by stunned silence. She spun, twisted, and glided, her every motion carrying pain, passion, and power. Her posture, perfect. Her rhythm, mesmerizing. Alexander, though a confident man, stumbled to keep up. His arrogance melted into confusion, then awe. The crowd watched, breathless, as this maid became something else entirely. A woman who seemed born for the stage. When the music ended, Isabella stood motionless, chest rising and falling, eyes filled with emotion she could barely contain. The room erupted into applause. Even those who had laughed moments ago were now wiping tears from their eyes. But Alexander, humiliated and humbled, stood speechless. He forced a shaky laugh, trying to reclaim control. "Impressive," he said, voice trembling with unease. "Where did a maid learn to dance like that?" Her lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. "From my father," she said softly, "before he lost everything, before your company took it all." The room fell deathly silent. Alexander's expression froze. Years ago, her father had owned a small family-run hotel, one that stood proudly until Alexander's corporation expanded and forced it into bankruptcy. Her father died heartbroken, leaving Isabella to care for her ailing mother. She had taken the only job available, as a maid, ironically, in the empire that had destroyed her home. And tonight, she had danced not for his amusement, but in his memory. A heavy silence filled the ballroom. For the first time, Alexander felt the weight of shame pressing down on his chest. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not a maid, but a woman carrying strength forged in pain. The applause that had filled him with pride moments ago now burned like fire in his veins. Without another word, Isabella turned and walked away, leaving him standing amidst a storm of whispers. The next morning, the story had spread across the internet. Someone had recorded the entire scene, the mockery, the dance, the revelation. Within hours, Isabella became a symbol of dignity and courage. Millions watched, moved to tears by the grace of a woman who turned humiliation into triumph. Alexander's name, however, was dragged through mud. His empire faced backlash. His investors questioned his integrity. But none of that hurt as much as the image of Isabella walking away, head high, unbroken. He tried to find her. Days turned into weeks. And finally, he located her at a small community dance studio on the city's outskirts, teaching children. He entered quietly, standing in the doorway as she guided a group of little girls through simple steps. The laughter and joy in that room were more genuine than anything he had ever known. When the class ended, he approached her, but she didn't smile. "What are you doing here, Mr. Hayes?" she asked, her tone calm but distant. "I came to apologize," he said, "for everything, for that night, for your family, for how blind I was." He reached into his jacket and handed her an envelope. "I can't undo the past, but I can return what was taken. This is your father's hotel deed, fully restored. It's yours again." Tears filled Isabella's eyes, but she didn't reach for it. "You think money can fix everything?" she whispered. "You can rebuild the walls, Mr. Hayes, but not the years lost inside them." He lowered his gaze. "Then let me help you build something new," he said softly. "Not as a millionaire trying to buy forgiveness, but as a man who finally understands what humility means." Months passed. The old hotel reopened, this time as a dance school and community center in her father's name. Children from poor families came to learn art, discipline, and hope. And though Alexander offered to help, Isabella made sure it remained a place of love, not power. Slowly, an unlikely friendship grew between them. He attended her classes, learned the tango, not to show off, but to learn what grace and patience truly meant. Together, they worked to turn his empire into something with purpose, a foundation that supported struggling artists and workers. And in the quiet moments when the world stopped watching, he found himself falling for her, not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she had taught him to see beauty beyond wealth, beyond pride. One evening, as they stood in the old ballroom where it had all begun, he extended his hand once again. "May I?" he asked. She smiled faintly, remembering that humiliating night, and how it had turned into something neither of them expected. "Only," she said softly, "if you finally learned the real meaning of the dance." He nodded, and they began. No crowd, no cameras, just two souls finding rhythm in forgiveness. The tango that had once been a cruel joke now became a symbol of redemption. When the music ended, he looked at her with sincerity that words couldn't hold. "You taught me to dance," he whispered. "But more than that, you taught me to be human." Her eyes softened. "And you taught me that even broken hearts can find grace again." They stood there, the world quiet beyond the windows, as the moonlight brushed over them. Two people once divided by pride and pain, now connected by compassion.